Have you ever felt thankful that one of your friends gave you a heads up, even if it was awkward for them? It was uncomfortable at the time, but ultimately you knew that they said it because they were looking out for you. Something like, oh, yo, you got some food in your teeth, or your fly's down, or you have ketchup on your forehead. I'm not sure how, but I'm just looking out for you. Or the person you're talking about is right behind you, right behind you. We've all had these moments, right? No one likes hearing that they have food on their shirt or a piece of toilet paper stuck to their shoe. But when someone cares enough about us to look out for us and save us from future embarrassment, we're definitely grateful. Now, let's think about this from the other side for a second. Have you ever felt like you should really say something to someone else, but you weren't sure how to go about saying it? Think about it. Telling your friend they have food on their face is one thing, but we all know there's bigger stuff too. On the other hand, talking to a friend about a relationship that you don't think is good for them, or confronting someone about decisions they're making lately that aren't great, or speaking up about something that you know is going to get them in trouble. Well, those kinds of things feel completely different. Speaking up in situations like those is beyond difficult. Like if your brother or sister started hanging out with people who convince them to do things that aren't right, what are you supposed to say? If your best friend is making decisions that their parents wouldn't be okay with, is it really your place to say something about it? So we usually just avoid the conversations altogether, don't we? But why? Maybe we don't want to ruin a friendship or make someone mad. Maybe we're doing or have done the same things in the past, so we don't feel like we have the right to say anything about it. Or maybe we don't think the other person will listen to us or listen to what we have to say. Or maybe we just don't know what to say or how to say it. For some of you, the situation is the opposite. You have no problem telling people exactly how you see it. You're not shy about speaking up at it at all. And the problem with that is that you may not always be speaking up in a way that causes people to want to listen. If you've ever wrestled with any of this stuff, the good news is you're not alone. We've all been there. We all know what it feels like to know that we need to say something, yet find ourselves unsure of what to say or how to say it. What if we could learn a way to approach difficult conversations? What if there was a way to be helpful and kind when we choose to speak up? What if there was a way to have difficult conversations that end up bringing about something good? Here's the thing. No one wants to be known as a hater. Nobody wants to be seen as the I'm so amazing friend who talks about everything everyone else does wrong. Instead, we want our reputation to stand out for the right reasons, for how we love and treat other people. So when it comes to being a friend who looks out for others, how do we make sure we handle it in the right way? Last time we met virtually, we talked about how we should be all about love. Who wouldn't want to have a reputation for loving others, no matter how tough we want to appear or how trendy hating on others is? We all know it's better to be known for loving others. But if love is the goal, then how are we supposed to handle it when someone is literally doing something bad or dangerous or just plain dumb? Maybe we should just avoid them. This seems to be the way we're supposed to behave. We're all just supposed to be okay with everyone else's choices because it's their life And who are we to judge? I think deep down, we all know that that isn't always the case, especially when it comes to the people closest to us. What do we do then? Paul actually talked about this very thing in a letter to a church where is now modern day Turkey. Paul gave insight on this topic. This is what he said. Dear brothers and sisters, if another believer is overcome by some sin, you who are godly should gently and humbly help that person back onto the right path. And be careful not to fall into the same temptation yourself. So Paul is saying that if the Galatians have any friends who share the same values but slip up and do something that is harmful, their responsibility is to help that person get back on the right track. In other words, he's saying you and I should actually go further than just saying something in a conversation. We should help someone get back to the best place they can be, on track with what God says is best. Now, there's a lot Paul isn't saying here too. He isn't saying that you are personally responsible for making sure your friends make wise choices. And he isn't saying you should put yourself in a position that sets you up for failure when you're trying to help your friends. Wisdom in these conversations and situations is a must. The point is, according to Paul, with humility and gentleness, you and I can help people who are struggling with making poor decisions get back on the right path. So Paul continues and says this, share each other's burdens, and in this way, obey the law of Christ. So how do we help them get back on track? By carrying each other's burdens. Think about it this way. In the world of fitness training, there's a person known as a spotter. A spotter is there to help when the weight gets too heavy and the person doing the lifting no longer able to lift that weight on their own. When that happens, the spotter carries the weight too. They carry the burden of the barbell along with the person that is doing the lifting. That is what we're supposed to do to help people get on the right path. Paul deeply cared about these people in this letter that he's talking to, which is why he wrote what he did. He knew that the most loving thing to do isn't always the easiest thing to do, but we owe it to each other to speak up, because the truth is we need each other. Not just to point out where others may have gotten off track, but to come alongside them and help them carry the burden of getting back to the place they should be. In other words, Jesus followers must do more than just speak up and point out what's wrong. We must make ourselves available to be spotters in the lives of others, to help make right where things have gone wrong. We don't just point fingers, we share burdens. Again, some of us are like, oh, I'm not afraid to speak up. I don't care what people think. And for those of us who feel that way, Paul snuck in 2 words that would be helpful to keep in mind when it comes to having these conversations. He said we should be gentle and humble, meaning is what we say is just as important as how we say it. The loving act is not to sound judgmental, arrogant, or self-righteous. Being kind, helpful, and encouraging shows people that we want to help them out of love. Hard conversations aren't easy, but avoiding a hard conversation isn't loving either. And enjoying a hard conversation by making someone look bad and feel terrible over what they've done isn't loving either. In fact, the conversation isn't really the point. The point is learning to ask this question. Am I showing love to how I'm treating this person? Love pushes us to talk about difficult things, and love also pushes us to talk about the difficult things in a kind and compassionate way, because that's what love does. It shares the burden of caring about the person who is carrying it and not about ourselves. So what is this supposed to look like? How can you begin to put this into practice this week? Some of you might be thinking about a friend that you need to have a conversation with. What should you do? Well, if you're going to choose to be known for your love for others, then when it comes to what you say and how you help others, remember this. Let love be your filter. You already know how filters work. You choose a filter on Snapchat or Instagram, and no matter where you look, it changes what you see. The same is true for choosing love as a filter. No matter where you look, no matter who is in your camera, you see them differently. You won't be known for love if the way you handle hard conversations and treat others is not loving. So when it comes to helping friends who are headed in unhealthy directions, you can be known for love by filtering your words and actions through love. When we help someone make a different choice than what they have been making, we do it even if it makes us feel totally awkward in the moment. When we encourage someone else to change his or her behavior, we need to do it in a loving way, not a judgmental way. When we see someone take a step in the right direction, we should encourage and celebrate them. Why? Because we love them, and that's what love does. So, what exactly should a filter of love be applied to? Here are a few ideas. Let love be the filter for your involvement. When you aren't sure if you should get involved in a friend's situation, ask yourself, what's the most loving thing I can do? Use this question as a filter for your next step. This provides a gut check for your motives and reminds you that your motives should be rooted in love. If the loving thing to do is to get involved to help someone get back on the right path, then you'll know to take the next step. This can be tricky to figure out, so don't hesitate to ask any of your refinery leaders, parents, or another trusted adult. Once you're sure the most loving thing to do is to get involved, here's the next step. Let love be the filter for your words. Ask yourself, how would I want someone to speak to me, and what would I want him or her to say to me? When you filter your words through love, you'll stop and make sure you're not just throwing shade. This isn't about making you look right and them to look wrong. Instead, you'll be letting them know you're there to carry their burdens with them. Your words can spark hope or cast judgment. If you filter them through love, they'll be words that can help get someone else's life back on track. Once you have a word filter in place, it's time to take the next step. Let love be the filter for your actions and reactions. If we have friends that are having a hard time keeping their lives headed in the right direction, chances are they won't just need your words. They'll need your help. You have to choose to filter your actions through love, just like you do with your words. Ask yourself, how would I want someone to live out their love if I were in this situation? Would you want them to keep their phone close in case you got in a tempting situation? Would you want them to pick you up or call a ride for you if you wound up at an unhealthy party? Would you want them to tell an adult or professional because the help that you need goes beyond them? Would you want them to say hard things and follow those words up with accountability and continuous conversations to help you stay on track? No matter what the situation is, if you filter your actions through love, you'll wind up being known for the way you love others, and you'll live out Paul's call to help share the burdens of other people. When you let love be our filter, we wind up sharing the burdens of those we love. Imagine how schools, friendships, and families would be different if there were more people filtering their involvement, words, and actions through love. We would say hard things to one another, not out of judgment or hate, but out of love. We would help keep each other from regrets, mistakes, and unnecessary heartbreaks or negative consequences. Who knows? A filter of love might just change the direction of someone else's life for the better forever. Let's be people who let love be our filter so that we can help those we love stay headed in the best direction for their lives. Let me pray for us. God, thank you so much that you give us this wisdom through the Bible. And we thank you so much for Paul's words. And I pray that we would really be able to take this filter of love seriously. It's so relevant to us in our day-to-day lives of how we look at people. Are we looking at people through the lens of love? Because if we were doing that, I think we would be treating people a whole lot differently. I pray that you would continue to give us the wisdom that we need to have these hard conversations that we may need to have. And I pray that we would not just say these words, but we would follow up and be those spotters to help carry burdens of our friends that may need our help. I pray you just continue to give us the wisdom that we need and the words and the heart posture that we need to go into these hard situations. We love you so much. In your name, amen. Love you guys. We will see you soon.